Denali said, and Barbie said too, I would like to start by saying, and all the of you who come out this morning on a Monday after these holidays to talk to us about how you see the work that our team has accomplished over the last 10 months. We started in February, so it's 11 now. Started in February this past year. And we also want to say for all of the good thoughts about how your schools will look when all this is finished, because the phase to present information to you is coming to an end. We have 4 more sessions like this planned. Tomorrow we're going to be in many farms at the high school, and then we have 3 other sessions in other parts of the nation over the next 6 weeks or so, which we now need to know what do people think when they see this information here. And then, as Matzo explained, well, it was a design phase that's developing that will put all of these ideas onto planning documents, then start the process of seeing how the system works. I'd also like to say a little something too about what my background allowed me to know about working with schools. It's good to know, so what is it people have done in the past to work with the children that are part of this study? And why is it we have wanted to make sure that we knew how the parents and the children felt, not just officials in Washington or Winter Rock? How did the parents feel about this? My own background, I received my PhD from the University of New Mexico in 1983, and I was very fortunate when I was a student at UNM to have been able to teach several communities on monopoly nation, Claudia, Pueblo Picado, Rock, and Tohatchi. I also taught in Dulce and Mescalero as well, and so I was able to see some of your cousins, how their lives had unfolded. I didn't know that at the time, but I often thought about the value of learning to so many different Indian communities in our state. I say our state because I don't tie myself to Arizona, but tomorrow, when we go to many farms, I will talk about what I know about Arizona. So today, Luego Mexicano is the Anacana. Tomorrow, I don't know how to say that in Arizona, but wanted to make sure that people knew that we've always been thinking in our study about what would people think when this information came out. So what you have presented us is going to be very helpful. And I also want to say one more thing about this sort of journey. We're also aware of something we were told by the BIE when this work began. This was not just to be something that we would learn for the Dine people. There are other tribes going through the same process. And we're going to be lessons learned from the experience of the Dine, the 66 schools, the 3 states, the 41,000 students, and so on. We're going to be lessons learned that might be helpful to other tribes. It's for the tribes right now that are in that design phase, and that so is working on for the Navajo Nation. And so much has been accomplished already for others, not just for Indian people. So with that in mind, we would like to talk to you a little bit about something that we find very important when we go out into communities and talk to students, parents, teachers, administrators. That is the idea of what students learn. Because in the end, that's why we all are here. It would be nice if the curriculum was something as simple as getting a package from a publisher, trying it out, because we all know it must be adjusted. So hopefully you will see what we learned with curriculum along the way that will be helpful with our conversation. Hopefully the rest of today, and then when we are in many farms tomorrow, we have the same sort of discussion. And once again, we're trying to summarize a 124-page report with key pieces of information about how we did our jobs, how we came to our understandings, how we want you to think about what we learned on our journey. We wanted to think about the recommendations to make for curriculum models, for plans that teachers, administrators can use. And Mr. Benali Finally made sure that we knew from the start that we had to begin with the optimization accountability workbook. So, January 2011, 4 years ago. I do not know how many of you in this room have read accountability workbook. I don't know how many of you are familiar with its contents. It might be something to consider because it has a sort of a blueprint for the directions that the tribe wanted to take 4 years ago. And some of our recommendations also suggest ways to rethink that document in light of both what's happened in the last 4 years and also what we've learned and contributed, as Mr. Benally asked us to do. It was also clear from the start that we were to keep in mind the tenets of the tribe's educational standards that had already been articulated in the fields of language, culture, history, government, and the relationships that govern all behavior of the tribe. So out of that, we hoped would come a culturally responsive curriculum that worked well with culturally appropriate instructional practices. We wanted to make sure the content, information students got in the subject aligned with the ways of conveying that information to young people, and we wanted to make sure that all of that became the base of an effective educational system that people wanted to invest in, wanted to make permanent. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through a couple of goals and objectives, a couple of recommendations. We hope we can take a few minutes. Realize that we have been working with you for quite a while this morning, so we'll just try to point out the key ideas for you, and then we will talk a little bit about some of the policy recommendations to finish, and hopefully we can have more of a conversation after that. One of the first things we in the curriculum team, and I was the sort of coordinator of the task force on curriculum. By the way, I should identify who worked with us on the curriculum task force so you know what we covered and who was contributing ideas. We broke it out into 3 areas: the reading components, instruction, the science and math, STEM components, and then the Dine language and culture components. So we took 3 directions, and we brought in 3 individuals to help us to understand the reading curriculum. We asked Sam Fox, she is Oglala Makota, who was the director of the Bureau of Indian Education's reading program in the 1990s, before No Child Left Behind was passed in 2001. And so she contributed much to the discussion about how the reading programs operated, and she was very clear that the integration of language and culture had to be central. It shouldn't just be an add-on, and hopefully you'll see that in the conversation here. We asked Marie Salt, who's director of the Cultural Center of the Kayenta Public School District in Arizona. She's also the parent involvement specialist for the Kayenta schools, a long-time school teacher herself, to offer us advice on how Kayenta does Dine language and culture in the K-12 schools. They've become a district where other schools have come to them asking for advice on how they could do business, especially in Arizona. And the third individual that we worked with on the curriculum team was Katie Yellowhorse Gilbert, who is now the Dean of Students at Newcomb High School in the school district where Matt sits on the board. And Katie is very knowledgeable not only in STEM. She taught math for 20 years at Turkey Central, but she also has worked with the Newcomb schools, and Matt can talk to you later about the scores that are coming out of Newcomb because of the attention that's paid on good content, good methods, good data collection, and good parental involvement. So we wanted to make sure that there were individuals working with us who spoke to the particular subjects, and they spoke to the ideas that work in their buildings and in their communities. So we examined state curriculum, assessment, and teacher quality requirements for all 3 of the states where Navajo children attend school, because this is one of the most unique features of the Dine people. No other tribe has this. There's one other tribe that has some children in another state. It's Standing Rock. Some of their children are in North Dakota. Some of their children are in South Dakota. No one has this reach. No one has this area with 3 different states. We then wanted to look at how each of those three states wanted instruction to be delivered under the new Common Core standards that have been discussed. And of course, one of the things we came across was the fact that each state is going its own way. The question was asked about the tribe, should it go its own way? Well, you're used to that because you have New Mexico accepting Common Core, you have Arizona accepting it and then deciding, well, they weren't going to accept it, but they were going to call it something else that looked like it. That's how I'll talk tomorrow. In many farms, I'll ask them, okay, so how's that going for you, Arizona? With that, call it something different. And then in this case of Utah, we found out at the last minute, Utah decided they're going to hold off. And so Utah's not sure which way it's going at all. Welcome to the multi-state program of instruction that the Navajo Nation already exists in. We didn't invent this. And the only solution we have is take it over yourself. Write your own curriculum. It's the only way out. If each state not only has a different approach, but is not sure which way each one ought to go. And then finally, the third of the goals and objectives was to make sure, we heard it over and over again, how to make Dine language and culture central. Part of the mainstream curriculum, not just its own class, not just something done after school. It needs to be central to K-12 curriculum. So that was one of the primary goals of the Dine competence standards, listed in the Navajo Accountability Workbook. So before I go any further, I'd like to ask great questions you might have about how we've been doing our jobs. And, sir? That'll come up then in a specific curriculum topics. We'll have another slide that'll say, here are the, we also wanted to science and math too. No, there are school districts already doing it. There's already school districts doing it. Sir? I'm sorry? You would like to say? Accountability workbook, what it is?
Nỗi của ta tại sĩ khai ya ta đâu ni ha ya ta thực nai di nỗi của ta tại sĩ khai sa di nỗi của ta tại sĩ khai sa ita ja di test pass in la go a con dan di ka shi de alo sa shi ka high school di test pass in la the pass in la math test or reading passing now they go diploma. Ita tende shinte den uska. Aron te haro si ho, just no child left behind at the photo. Te konina, he pass in la ya ko diploma. Aro pass in la ya kon si do kla. But that's it. The all the accountability workbook. So the